Okay. Thank you. Okay, so welcome to our question and answer for the Kingston Borough Business Awards 2025. Some of you may have entered the awards before. I know Victoria has, and I know Liz has, and B came to it. It was one of our early entries in our very first year of running the KBBA. So question answers. And really, how can we try and help you with your presentations and submissions into these awards? First of all, there is a reference, there's a section on the KBBA website regarding sort of Q&As. So I'm going to kind of go through these quickly in sort of as we're speaking here. But the overall message and story which I'll try and convey to you here is it's threefold, really. One is this is bluntly, this is an exercise in how to tell your story, is to tell your version of who you are, what you've done. So the storytelling part is incredibly important. The second part is you need to visualize that you're telling this story to somebody who's never met you before, never heard of you before. No matter what you think in terms of your business, and you're thinking, oh, plenty of people know what I do, treat it that this is going to somebody, they're looking at on an online portal, they're reading this for the very first time, and they're thinking, who is Olivia, for example? And to actually say, this is what I do. And then the third point to remember is it's the benefits, the benefits, the benefits, the benefits. What are the things that you have done, that your business has done, which have been a real benefit? So those three things is it's the art of telling a good story. It's to picture that somebody has never heard of you before. This is the very first time that they've encountered you or your business. And then three, bang on about the benefits. Those are the three key things in terms of sort of how you present your story. I'm going to kind of go through this kind of a slight sort of, as I said, these kind of Q&A things which we've done before, just to recap. And most of you may be familiar, some may not be so familiar. So first of all, does my business need to be registered in the borough? This is slightly grey area with this one. The borough. So yes, ideally in the borough, and or working primarily in the borough, or working quite extensively with other people within the borough. Just interestingly, the chamber, we actually look at our membership, and currently 43% of our chamber members actually come from outside into the borough to work and to do business in the borough. So if you say you think, well, I'm in Elmbridge, for example, yes, of course you can enter. If you can show we do work here, we do work there, and to show that connection, that your contribution is into the borough of Kingston. So again, the storytelling is, if you can back that up, then there is room for that. Essentially, the Borough Business Awards is about the impact that everybody makes into the borough. So it's not exclusively just from the outside, it's what you are able to put back into the business community within the borough. Next question is, do I need to be a member of Kingston Chamber of Commerce? No, absolutely not. There's a ton of businesses who are not chamber members, and that makes no difference. This is open to all businesses, big or small, from outside of the chamber membership. In terms of how do I enter, I'll start with that one. The entering is essentially it's an online portal. So on the KBBA website, there is sort of an enter button, and on that you go into, it's a package called Awards Force. Within that, it will give you an opening section which is about your key details, a brief overview of who you are, and then it will go through into each of the different questions. Each category has there's the same number of questions per category. The word count is there. We have tightened up the word count, so you can only put in the amount of words which are there. We've changed some of the questions so they're more bullet points in certain things. So you can be sort of slightly shorter with your answer. But so you go through, you're on an online portal and you go through the various questions and then you can submit. The deadline is February the 13th. And that is the deadline at the moment. In terms of uploading files, yes, you can upload a PDF, you can embed a link. Best to embed any links if there's any video links or anything else like that. At the very beginning, it does ask you to any social media handles. You can put those on as well. So there is a word limit. You can upload files. The only thing which I'd always say about uploading a file is, again, bearing in mind that the judges will be looking at a whole number of entries, is try to put the bulk of your content within the portal itself. So rather than say, oh, have a look at this PDF or that PDF, and there's this and there's that, if there's too much work for them to do, that will be quite an aggravation. So try and keep the limit down the number of PDFs that you actually put on, unless it's really critical. The important item to always to try and put in are testimonials. Testimonials are a little bit of gold dust. They add that outside voice to back up the work which you do. So testimonials are always a very good reflection of what you need to do. You don't need to put in a ton of them. One or two would suffice. It just backs up what you're actually trying to do. The judges, in terms of how this all works. So basically, when you actually put in your submission into the portal, there are 3 independent judges. They will look at your presentation. They will individually score it out of 10. We then have a judging day when all the judges come together. They will be presented with the portal scores. So the 3 judges will not be working together. They will come in, they will sort of say, they'll look at Olivia's, they'll look at Victoria's, they'll look at Liz's, and they will score them all up. Then when they come in, we say, this is what the portals showed. We then have quite a lot of toing and froing. They will say, oh, actually, that's interesting. I thought their argument was stronger. So the 3 judges will come together and they will decide sort of who the finalists will be. This year, there will be 3 sets of finalists. In the previous year, we've had 4, but this year there's going to be 3. But the great thing about the judging is that we have judges who have experience in any of the categories that we have put forward. So they may be sponsors, but equally we will get 2 other people who are related and understand that area. So whether in a charity, there'll be people who will be familiar with the charity sector. So you're not getting judges who are sort of familiar with apples when actually you're an orange. That's not a very good analogy, but sorry, Liz. But it is that. So we do get people who understand the field that you are in. You can enter more than one category. There's a lot of these categories which slightly overlap in different areas. So, for example, if you were supporting young people, but equally you could be in a charity who's supporting young people. So you can go into 2 different categories. The only thing which I'd always recommend is that you top and tail it a little bit. So you don't just sort of take that chunk, oh, I'll just plonk that into that category and off you go. Change the story, because the judges, you could be talking to a very different judge. You might be talking to a judge who's judged one category before. So just top and tail it, make it really relevant to that particular category. So just don't just chunk, repeat. It's not going to work. So tailor your answer to that particular category. But if you look at, so for example, best charity of the year, I'm using this as an example. Think about sort of presenting it in terms of what is the audience? How did you resolve their problem? What were the key benefits? What did they really get out of this? And just reiterate that it is all about the benefits. What did they really get out of this? It's a human story. So give it a sense of who you are. Don't just sort of become kind of like an AI automated sort of response. We did this, we did that. Give it a little bit of your personality. Those really come through very clearly when the judges are looking at the portal and looking at the submissions. Give it a flavor of who you are. It's not about sort of, well, I'm not sort of particularly articulate. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. Just give it that sense of who you are, that sense of personality, and that will go a long, long way. So those are possibly the key things at the moment. I think in terms of sort of other entry tips, always link your aims and objectives to the results. So think, we started at this point, these were the objectives and the results were this. It's always about the results. As I said, always assume that you're speaking to somebody who's not familiar with your work. Many, many years ago, I was a judge and I had the fortune or misfortune of somebody who had actually sort of quoted real figures. Quote real figures. Don't try and BS people with sort of, oh, we gained 130% growth this year, or we did this. Use real figures where you can. The judges are pretty wise. They've been around the block a little bit, so they will know when a figure is slightly stretching your point. So if you don't have figures, that doesn't matter at all. But if you do have figures, be honest with them, and don't be afraid that you just say, you know, it's a 5% increase. The last couple of years have been very challenging for a number of businesses. So a small percentage can actually mean a big return and can be a bit of a benefit. So, but just be true to those particular figures that you put in. Try to avoid jargon and acronyms. Oh my goodness. Again, this is the whole thing about sort of talking to somebody who doesn't know your business. Try to avoid using sort of, and I've seen this particularly in education somehow, is they do like using a little acronyms here, there, and everywhere, and jargon. Try and keep it in plain English as best as you can. For those who are a little bit more adventurous, there are things called infographics, which are kind of charts. Olivia will know this being a designer, in terms of just a little chart showing graphics. That's a brilliant way of capturing what you do. And you can put that on a PDF. It's sort of, we did this, we showed a growth here, and you can put figures and stats and messages on one chart. So if you're not familiar with an infographic, Google it. It's basically a chart which you just put figures and stories into one sort of page. That can work really well. And as I said, client quotes and testimonials go a long way as well, but you don't need to put in 5, 1 or 2 appropriate ones which back up your messaging can work very well. I'm going to take a breather now and see if anybody has got any particular questions, because I'm sure I've missed a whole load of things here. So are there any questions? So anybody wants to put themselves off mute and ask me, I'm more than happy. Just stunned into deadly silence here. Any questions anywhere?
Can I ask a question, Tom?
Oh, yes, please. Hi there.
If we apply this year and if we do not success, do we have chance to reapply next year as well?
Yes, of course,
Okay.
and yes, most definitely. And I'd always say to people who maybe applied last year, we do try to give feedback. I gave, gosh, probably around 40 entries feedback last year to just try and help people to just understand where they could have um, just got just tweaked it over to being a finalist. So whether somebody is a winner, a finalist, you can go again, go again. The judges will be different in terms of there's a different mix of judges this year. So it's a fresh start. It's a complete fresh start. So you can go again for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I have a
Hi there.
question as
Hi,
well.
Maria.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Maria. Yeah, I work for Teresa C. Couture, which is a new fashion atelier in Surbiton. Teresa, the stylist, is with us today as well. Because we are new and it's the first time we apply for this award, we were wondering how many people do you usually apply for it? Is there a big number?
That's a
Just
good question.
yeah, an idea, yeah.
No, that's a good question. And it's okay. Last year, the very first year, this is our fourth year. Our very first year, but this was just out of COVID. So I think there was a real sort of splurge as such. So there was around 200, just over 210. Last year we had 184. Now the most popular category or the largest category to get the most submissions was excellence in customer experience, which isn't which is not a great surprise because a lot of businesses naturally feel that's what they're very good at and that's what they should be very good at. So I think that is the most popular category. There are some new ones. We have the best brand of the year, best cultural enterprise, best freelancer, sole trader, small business. And that particular category is very much a kind of, if you were a regular chamber member, a small micro business, that one in particular is what it is geared at. We have a really healthy, strong, small business environment in Kingston. And if you were to look at our membership profile, and it's the same for the council's one, ours is currently up to about 82% of our membership is businesses between 1 to 12 sizes, 12 employees. So these awards are really for micro businesses. And last year we had winners who had just started up. We've had businesses. We had a lovely chap, Yu Wing, who from Ola Organic Farm down in New Malden. He's won the sustainability 2 years running. I'm sure he'll try again. He's a competitive so-and-so, which is lovely. But and we've had Chessington World of Adventures have won it in another category. So there's so many kind of big and small, but primarily I would say it is a very kind of small business awards in terms of businesses between 1 to 12. 184 spread over 15 categories, 16 categories, does kind of come, it basically means there's around 7 or 8 who go into each of these different categories. So I think there is actually plenty of room and space.
Thank you so much for your answer. I have another question.
Good.
For section 3 about the benefits, can you give some example? This area was not totally clear to me when I'm doing the application basically. So yeah,
Which
just to have.
category, if you don't mind me asking, are you looking at?
Oh,
Okay, it just because it just helps in terms of context to actually say
yeah, as a new enterprise, yeah,
as just a startup.
yeah.
Okay, in that particular context, in terms of what are the benefits, it's a case of trying to think, as a best startup, you probably position yourself thinking, do you know, there's a gap in the market. The business is set up to address if it's say for education needs, let's say for that, the benefits we can supply young people who are growing up is this benefit, that benefit. It's knowing the balance of the benefits to the audience, where you set the business up to work. So as I say, if it's for early learning, you think the benefits could be this, this, and this, because it solves a problem. So if you set up your business, you're thinking, we can solve different problems here. And it's a case of, what are the benefits of solving these problems out? What is somebody going to get out of this? If they come to Teresa yourself, do you know, if I come to them, they're going to take this problem away from me. They're going to solve this for me. It's going to give me a bit of freedom to go and do that. Or it's going to be a cost benefit.
Okay.
A lot of the conversations these days for lots of businesses comes down to social value as well. There's a lot of conversation. You're going to hear it probably in a broader term later on this year in terms of social value, social impact. That sense of it's not just about a business, it's a broader view of how you help people out. So always just keep an eye out on that in terms of social value. Goes a long way as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, if I may, I have a question that connects to what you just said. Hi, everyone. Nice to see a few familiar faces from the other day. So we do collaborate with other local businesses, and we do offer internships to students from Kingston University. Would you say, is this something that we should point out, or is just better to focus on what we do?
I think if you have the opportunity to show collaborations, that's very helpful, and that's very constructive as well. I think that's a very good point. Not everybody can be in that position, but if there's affiliations, if there's I know, for example, Emma has just come on, Digital Mother. She works with other people as well to provide a broader package. Those collaboration links, that's a good story as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa.
May I?
Hi, Olivia.
Hi everyone. If, for example, it's co-own, if the business is co-own, is it okay to enter as well?
Yes, it is. There's a number of businesses which might be a part of a franchise. So one example is, and they won an award basically in the second year, called Visiting Angels, but they are sort of North Surrey. But the people there, they work incredibly hard within the local area. So co-owned, a franchise, as long as you're telling the story in terms of the impact you're making to your client, your collaborations, to the area, to the business area of Kingston, that's absolutely fine. Makes no problem whatsoever. Does that help you? Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think these days it's actually, there's a lot of independent folk, but there's a lot of collaborations which go on, and a lot of sort of partnerships. And I think it's worth sort of showing that off and actually demonstrating that. I think we live in a different world these days, and I think those collaborations are important to kind of put over.
Sorry, I have one more question, if it's okay. If we are co-owner, but our business we still sole traders at the moment, is that okay, or does it need to be registered as a limited company?
No, the whole idea. So, for example, that particular category of best freelancer, sole trader, small business, is it doesn't matter if you're a sole trader or a freelancer. You don't all have to be limited businesses. No.
Only on that category?
No, to be honest, actually, just thinking about it now that you mentioned it, no, I don't think it really matters. I think it genuinely doesn't make any difference. And I don't think there's any question. I'm absolutely 99.9% certain there's no questions asking whether you're a limited business or not. It doesn't matter at all. I think if you are a much larger organization trying to enter the best freelancer, that would be a little bit debatable, but anything else, absolutely not. The kind of construct of how we work in that has changed quite a bit. And the freelancers, sole traders, they do a huge amount in the borough anyway. So no, it doesn't make any difference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Just on that category, Forbes.
Hey, Yuki.
Hi there. It says on the website under that description, it says micro or small 1 to 2 people teams. So if I have 4 people in my team, does that make me ineligible for it?
No, and this is a great thing is that you start learning things in terms of you have a conversation like this and you think, maybe we should have changed that. No, I think that's absolutely fine. It's a small business, and to many of us, the small businesses, as I say, the category really is kind of like 1 to 10 is a small business. So no, that's absolutely fine. In fact, I will have a word with the loan and we'll tweak that because that is a little bit too narrow.
Okay.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Excuse me, I've got a quick question. I'm interested in the sorry, hi Forbes, hi guys.
Hi Rob.
In the best marketing and digital service award, would that be aimed at, obviously it'd be my company entering the award, but would I talk about just one project or would I talk about a range of projects? Because obviously I'm looking at the description, it talks about, I mean, is it aimed at, so we build websites. So would I just do it on one website or would I sort of do a selection?
That's a good question without knowing exactly what the stories are. I would.
I mean,
if you were to tell 2 different stories,
yeah,
my advice would be that they were to demonstrate 2 very different capabilities or 2 very strong outcomes.
Yeah, ideally I'd want to talk about one. So, but the reason I've come on this was one project we finished quite recently. It's actually they're actually a charity based in Teddington, so I don't know if that counts anyway. But
sorry, pardon me for interrupting you, Rob. If your client is actually outside the borough, it's not necessarily just, for example, Rob, if your client is outside of the borough, that doesn't matter. It's about you and your business. It doesn't matter where the clients are. It's actually the work which you've actually done.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So I'd probably aim it just at them. But I didn't know if that was, because obviously it's their website. I want to promote the work we've done for them, if that makes sense, sort of to try and for the award rather than me as a company, if that makes sense.
Is it your work has contributed to the success?
Oh, we built the website, but
it's your story. It's your story.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So it's a case of just if you feel like there's one very strong story, or if there's 2 stories, but they prove different attributes, different sort of outcomes, which you think, God, they're really strong. You can do both. It's just then how you streamline that through the submission, that there's a kind of consistency, that you don't start with 2 and then it looks like, well, there's just 1. It's just how you dovetail that through.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts at the moment? No. Liz, do you have any thoughts or questions? Because I know you're super competitive this year. Well, you were competitive last year, but
yeah, no, we are, and we're going to work on it. But then it's down to me to write some of it. So, we'll see when other people then improve it. No, it's been really useful, actually, because I think when we entered last year, what we did was take an assumption of a base knowledge. So we're a charity, for those that don't know us, and part of AFC that works with young people. There's 2 parts to ours. And we took a base assumption, and actually we shouldn't, because just because we know ourselves doesn't mean everybody else does. And I think we didn't concentrate enough on explaining the benefits as you've outlined here. So I've made half a page of notes already. I did want to ask, you said there are 3 things right at the start but I was still making my coffee, so I heard them and I can't remember them to write them
Oh
down.
my God,
So
you're not
one
asking
was
me to think.
definitely write as if they've never heard of us. One was definitely make it a story, tell your story, and I can't remember what the third one was.
So it's actually the benefits. So one is the story, is
Yeah.
how you tell your story. The second one is treat it as if somebody's never heard of you before. And 3, the benefits, the benefits, the benefits. It's a bit like the old Bill Clinton thing. It's well, it wasn't Bill Clinton, but it's the economy stupid. It's the benefits stupid. It's to really bang that drum. On that particular point, Liz has mentioned that she's writing this in conjunction with the charity that she knows. It is sometimes worthwhile if there's anybody that you want to use as a sounding board to bounce your submission through. The submissions you can start, you can come off, come back to it. You don't always have to do it all in one go. You can go backwards and forwards. But it might be another little top tip is to sort of, if there's somebody that you trust, somebody else you know, and just say, how does that sound? Does that capture who we are? Is that a good reflection? Not everybody can get somebody else to write for them. And you could argue the best people to write the submission is the people who run the business. But sometimes that certain degree of objectivity is kind of quite useful. So step back and say, do you know what? Does this actually make sense? And somebody will just, even if it's just a kind of a sort of readjust the sentence, they say, do you know, it doesn't really make sense, or that doesn't really capture what you do. Don't just put yourself in isolation with this. So I would just bounce that with somebody else. The advantage, as I say, with the portal is that you can come back to it. So you can think, I'll put that chunk in, come back to it about another 3 days later or 4 days later, reread it. And then also just top and tail it again. I know I said about top and tailing in different contexts of going for different categories, but just read the beginning and just read the end of it and think, yep, those two kind of join up, because we've seen entries where they start really strong and they just go, da-da, oh, it's a dribble at the end. So get that kind of consistency from the beginning to the end. And it sounds really pedantic, but actually, again, it's like a story. A good story begins with a dramatic intro, and it ends with a good punchy ending. So just make sure beginning, middle, end, bang, that people just go, wow, that was really good. A little bit of emotion, a little bit of humor even goes a long way. So yeah. So yeah, I think that helps a little bit.
And you've added to my list now, because now I'm going to have to get somebody else to read it through that doesn't know the organisation, to make sure that it actually makes sense, that that somebody who doesn't know us understands what we're talking about, because yeah,
I mean,
there is a tendency not to.
It's just, goodness, I mean, when I look at the chamber stuff, and I'm thinking, we know it, we breathe our work, we live it, we sleep with it. And then you think, well, I know it. And sometimes it'd be amazing how I've had so many meetings where somebody's, well, that doesn't really make sense. And you look at it and you're thinking, oh, they're right, it doesn't. And so none of us are perfect because we think we know it all. And we do when it comes to our business, but we don't always convey it across to somebody else. And if you think about it, how many things do you receive saying, oh, we do this, we do that, which comes through in your emails or messages or LinkedIn, and you're just thinking, I don't get it. I can remember somebody, when we started, the cloud came out many, many years ago. We had somebody who stood up at a breakfast 8 times. And I went, I still don't get what this cloud thing does. They knew it perfectly well, but it took 8 goes, and I'm going, oh, now I get it. So yeah.
And just to prove, I saw an email from you this morning, Forbes, on a different
it was
topic.
awful.
It was awful, and I don't understand it. So I'm going to reply to you going, what are you going on about? So yeah, even you're prone to it.
It was stonkingly awful, and my apologies, Liz. I haven't had time to actually come back and apologize. That's another thing. Don't do this at rush. Don't go at warp speed. Just do it slowly. Yes, possibly the worst email so far this year. But we digress. Are there any further thoughts? I'm totally happy. You have our email to contact us at the KBBA or myself, Forbes at kingstonchamber.co.uk. If you've got any further questions, I'm more than happy to answer them in person. There may be something which is directly relevant to your own business, which you may not want to sort of discuss here. So certainly more than happy to answer those questions. For those who are real sucker for punishment, this has been recorded, so we will make it available again. Emma, you can watch the beginning. But all I would say is reiterate those three things: telling a story, keep it simple, give it a little bit of humor and your personality, keep going on about the benefits. You can do several categories, but it is a very transparent, it is a genuinely fair submission portal. It is free to put the things in. And I think the diversity and the different people who have won and who have been finalists, it's fabulous. It's really, there's so much diversity. So whether you just work by yourself, work in partnership with other people, it makes no difference whatsoever. Big or small, the stories can go a long, long way. So make the most of it. I know that so many of you have contribute so much to the kind of the borough economy in many different ways, and it is fabulous. So just don't be so modest. We can all be very modest at times, and sometimes even the council, the whole thing is we have to be a little bit less modest about things. We should shout out a little bit more. So this is an opportunity to just shout out, actually, do you know what? We are pretty damn good at this. Make that kind of come out. That'd be good. Thank you for your time. And I say, if there's any other things which you would like to chat about, we're very welcome to chat further on this. And yeah, we take it from there. Hopefully we see your submissions and get competitive. I'm a Capricorn. I like being competitive. It's good.
Thanks, Forbes.
Our
And
pleasure.
thanks, everybody.
Mind yourself.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.